So this view, I'm really excited to share with you guys. It lists all the machines that are active in a single view with easy access to all the same data I was just kind of walking you through. But it introduces a few other features. So if I'm trying to diagnose what's going on with the machine, there's a couple ways I can do that. So let me start by just looking at my aggregate number of machines before I go into the details of a per machine basis. I can scroll through this and see all the key data points associated with each machine. But I may only be focused on a certain group of machines. So let me go ahead and just filter this a little bit to focus on the machines that I care about. So I may care about my brake presses. So I'm going to I could filter it by each single machine, or I may care about a group of machines. So I'm going to go and focus on the machines that I have. Let's go ahead and hit my my citizens. I'll go for my presses actually. Actually, I want to do my citizens at least. Actually, here we go. I'm going to do a couple of different machine groups. So I get a group of machines listed out here. All right, so I have my machines listed out here. But more importantly, and this is the part that I really want to clarify on, is we have a lot of different ways to sort this to show out different areas. So I can obviously sort on top performing machines, machines that have a higher utilization rate from the lowest. That's really basic. The filter that I really like is the last active time. So we're tracking when machines are starting to produce, and we're giving you a view that makes it easier for you to discover machines that didn't start producing right on time. And so you can filter this into the areas that you are focusing on, and then find out the machines that are kind of that are not starting at the beginning of their shift. So this is a really important feature that really drives a particular use case for making sure your machines are starting when they are producing when you expected them to produce. And the nice thing about this, you can save this view. So I'm just going to give this name is Wilson. And now that I have this view, I can come back to this view as opposed to going to my all machine views and looking at all 24 machines. So really effective way to personalize this to the things that you need to be focused on and the view that you are caring about. So that's really important. So let's dig into this high volume piano. All right, so a few things just to kind of map you through. Obviously, I have some date filters here. I can filter based on shifts, and I can filter based on operations if I have multiple operations going on during this day. We give you access to the timeline that has been one of our key areas of our product. This allows you, with just going back to the presentation that Graham started with, you should have mapped out this enterprise view to this company view to a machine view. Well, this goes down to the next level is what's happening between 6 a.m. and 6:15, where you can zoom into these particular details. So if I want to look at 9:30, in this case, I want to go to 9:30 to 10 o'clock, I can zoom in. And so being able to get from just the enterprise view to what's happening on a minute by minute basis is all at your fingertips. And that is, I think that's cool. You think that's cool, Graham?
I think it's so cool. I'm coming off mute to share how cool I think that is.
Yeah, this is so why it's okay. First of all, it's cool from a technology point of view, but it's cool that we're giving you the same transparency of data at multiple areas of your organization. So some people may care about the enterprise aspect of it. Some people are going to be looking at the machine data, but everyone has access to move up and down that particular thread of view at a moment's notice. And so very powerful feature in our system. So these are some of the tools that you have access to navigate. One of the areas I wanted to spend some special attention on is categorization of downtime. So one of the ways that we've changed our system is to enable you to bulk categorize downtime. So there's a couple of things I want to point out here. As we stated earlier, a lot of our system is automatic. So as soon as you connect the machine, we're turning on various different automations for you. So for example, here, there's a fair amount of downtime that are categorized automatically, through our auto system. And so we define some basic rules. They're associated with what the machine is doing and mapping that to the categorization downtimes. So it takes off a huge amount of load for customers who need to categorize this information. But there are some downtimes that the machine cannot tell us when it's happening. And so these are areas where you can select these downtimes. Let's say all of these downtimes that I have that were uncategorized are the same downtime. Well, we make it easy for you to bulk categorize them to pick off where the automation can't continue. And so here I can pick, let's say this is an inspection. Maybe there's an inspection piece that's happening all the time. I can say it's planned or unplanned, but the key point when I hit save here, I am categorizing all those downtimes in a single moment. So it makes it really easy for a shop floor manager to sort of pick up where the automation missed at the end of each shift to make sure that you have full transparency in the data that you're categorizing. And so this is a good way to capture some of the human areas where the machine can't tell us exactly why a machine is down. So this is a really hot feature. So I really wanted to call this out. It makes the automation and the bulk categorization combined really make a difference in being able to detect and do the analysis to help you discover areas to improve. So those are some of the key things that are done from this view. But we also are giving you information about not just the machine, but what's happening with the operation that's running on it. So when the operation is running, we give you some data. So we are giving you an idea of how much time this operation took to set up. We do compare this. So when we have information about how long you expected to set up, that information shows up here. This is also a good area to tell you, hey, you don't have that set. And so it's going to make it more difficult for us to do comparisons if we don't have this density of information. So we're presenting that information to you to identify where they may have gaps in how your ERP is set up, which we pulled the data from your ERP, or if you set it up directly inside of machine metrics. When we do have that consistency of information, we're also giving you the cycle time comparison between what's expected, and we're also giving you the baseline cycle time. And if you have touch time, we also give you that information as well. Just going to move this over so you can see the entire language. So whenever there's a break between a cycle where a human has to do a parts changeover, we're calculating what that information is. So we're breaking out the performance of that particular part operation, surfacing that data so you can start to see, okay, am I quoting it correctly? Do I have enough data in my system? And actually, what is the cycle time that is actually running on our system? So we try to surface as much information as automatically as possible and contrast that to what standards that you have in the system. So, and we do this with every machine out of the box immediately. And so that's really the cool part. We're leveraging all the data that's coming from the machines and aggregating that up so we can make these observations.
Rutherford, I have an observation. When we're looking at OEE and utilization or any of these metrics, and I'm stealing this question from Mike. So good question, Mike. How do we look at things when, say, like a machinist is setting up? How do we know that a machine's in setup versus, just is it on? Is it running? How does something like that work?
That's a great question. So we do that automatically. So when you have a machine that is telling us information about what it's producing, we analyze the data and we look at the tear down from the previous job that was running. We identify when you're running a new program. We evaluate and analyze the cycle times associated with how you're building a new part. So maybe you have some tester parts that you're building, and we evaluate that data. And once you move into production, we look at those patterns and we start to identify how much time it's taking you to do setup. So we are looking at actual data associated with the behavior of the machine to determine tear down, part change, program change, and how you're doing the initial setup. And we use that entire time scale and we remap our data to make sure we determine that time is setup time. And so that gives you an accurate reference of the time that you have it set up. And we're using machine learning to do this. So it learns the patterns of your machines, learns the patterns of how you are in production and when you're not in production to make it easy for us to track that information.
Awesome. That's really freaking cool.
It's beyond freaking cool because first of all, not only is it work with it works out of the box, but it works with machines where you may have operations that take 30 seconds or operations that take 2 hours. And so it makes it really easy. So because of the way we're doing it, it makes it easy for us to really figure out accurately where this data is. And the nice thing is we've profiled this against thousands of data sets at this point, thousands upon thousands of data sets. So it's been very useful.
So for my monkey brain, what you're saying is that from day one, I could essentially start just running all my machines and immediately test all of my, essentially my perceived setup times versus what actually is happening, and gain that insight from day one without us having to really do anything.
Absolutely. And actually, you're kind of speaking into some of the future innovations that we want to describe back in the company dashboard. Is right now we're just looking at cycle times. What we want to do, if we see massive deviations in setup times, we want to expose that to you when you first log in. And that's where we want to do. So basically give you a roundup of all the errors or misconnections that you want to do, and provide you help of either figuring out whether that this is a data issue where maybe you because in many cases you may have done your setup standards 10 years ago and you haven't changed them since, and things have, things, as Grant stated, things have changed. So you may want to update what your standards are based on our data, or you want to refine your standard because maybe you're operating faster because of some changes, the continuous improvement changes you've made. And so you want to update your standards so you can be more efficient in the market and how you quote jobs.